So there's a clip resurfacing right now that absolutely humiliates, shreds, devastates, and did in that moment, and does especially now, Donald Trump. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Now, it's incredibly clear to all of us who pay attention to politics every day. I know, viewer, that you are as incredibly locked in as I am, or else you wouldn't be tuning into this show right now. But Donald Trump is completely unfit for office. Now, we know that. And you feel like any normal person who is faced with his criminality, lack of character, failures as president, desire to be a king, experience as a con man would also see that. But it is not abundantly clear to many. And that is unfortunate, and that's why we do this. Because we have to educate people. We have to share and show what a horrible person Donald Trump is, how unfit he is for office. And that job gets a little bit easier when we have great advocates. And that job gets a little bit easier when we have great advocates in the GOP. Now, it's not the GOP that it was before. Not that I was a fan of that Republican Party, but at least it was a party that believed in democracy and a peaceful transition of power. Of course, that's not the case anymore, but one of the most Republicans came out against Donald Trump a while back, and that clip is resurfacing, and I think it's important to show right now, as we're leading up to the Republican convention, and to continue to push on the fact that Donald Trump is not fit for office, that a person who wants to be a king is not fit for office. Because we've spent so much time in the past couple of days talking about President Biden's chances at re-election. Sure, there's a little bit of infighting within the party right now, but it's because we care about democracy. And there's not that infighting in the Republican Party to the extent that there should be, because they don't, because they've fallen in line. And so this is a person who has not fallen in line, and that person is Dick Cheney. Check this out.
In our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. He tried to steal the last election using lies and violence to keep himself in power after the voters had rejected him. He is a coward. A real man wouldn't lie to his supporters. He lost his election, and he lost big. I know it, he knows it, and deep down, I think most Republicans know it. Lynn and I are so proud of Liz for standing up for the truth, doing what's right, honoring her oath to the Constitution, when so many in our party are too scared to do so. Liz is fearless. She never backs down from a fight. There is nothing more important she will ever do than lead the effort to make sure Donald Trump is never again near the Oval Office. And she will succeed. I am Dick Cheney. I proudly voted for my daughter. I hope you will too.
I'm Liz Cheney, and I approve this message.
Now, I'm sure Dick Cheney feels a special animosity and disgust towards Donald Trump because of the way that he has acted towards his daughter, Liz Cheney, who, as well, voted with Donald Trump 93% of the time while he was president. Certainly, I am not a fan of her policy positions, but as Liz Cheney has said before, we can survive bad policy, but we cannot survive someone who wants to be a king. Now, of course, I think President Biden's policy is fantastic. I think it's historic. I think it's progressive, and she doesn't, and that's okay, because she believes in a peaceful transition of power. She believes in maintaining our democracy, and that is the most important thing in this country that we've built. And of course, again, I think that Donald Trump's very specific attacks on her maybe have led her to push back on him even more. And one of those absurd attacks that just goes to show how dangerous Donald Trump is happened last week on Truth Social, when Donald Trump he reposted an image calling Liz Cheney guilty of treason and for her to be prosecuted in televised military tribunals. Now, this tells you two things about Donald Trump. One, he thinks that the presidency that he occupied meant that he was the entirety of the United States, that going against Donald Trump, not, succumbing to his every whim, not falling in line with a cult, made you guilty of treason against the United States because he believed he was the king. And of course, now the Supreme Court believes he's the king, but that's not the case, and that shouldn't be the case. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, this is his plan for his next administration. Project 2025 very clearly outlines that Donald Trump would have the power, if he wanted to send in the military to break up protests of him, peaceful protests. One of the foundations of this country, our ability to peacefully share our voice, not storm the Capitol, attack police officers, rub poop on the walls. No, that's not protests. That's a riot. That's an insurrection. But he wants to send the military to peaceful protests. So not to stop people violently attacking the Capitol, but people peacefully using their voices. That's who Donald Trump is. Now, I wanted to show a couple more clips of Liz Cheney, but before I do, I want to of the Cheneys. But before I do that, I want to show you Liz Cheney's response. She said, "Donald, this is the type of thing that demonstrates yet again that you are not a stable adult, and not fit for office." Spot on. Spot on from Liz Cheney. Again, I may not agree with her policy positions, but I am forever grateful for what she's done to serve this country and to stand up for democracy against Donald Trump. Now, I said I was going to play more clips of the Cheneys, and I think this one is incredibly important. I think it reveals a lot about the way that this country has rapidly changed because of Donald Trump. Let's check it out.
And, there was a moment right after January 6th where I was having dinner with my husband and our two youngest kids, who happened to be our sons. And I looked at my sons across the dinner table, and I had this realization, I grew up in a country where I didn't have to wonder if we were going to have a peaceful transfer of power in the United States. And all of a sudden it occurred to me, my God, maybe they won't be able to say the same thing. And that is why it's so fundamentally important that we ensure Democrats, independents, Republicans, that we work together, we vote together, we make clear that Donald Trump is not an acceptable alternative. He is not the lesser of two evils. He is a completely unfit man for office. He's already shown us what he would do, and he can never be near the Oval Office again.
So the final point by Liz Cheney is perfect. He is not an acceptable alternative. We are no longer at the point where we can sleep peacefully knowing that whoever is president, in their heart, what they'd like to do, whether we disagree with them or not, is to make the country a better place in the way that they see it will be. Now, what she said in the beginning hits very close to home for me because my generation does not take for granted democracy anymore. We don't take for granted this idea that if we don't show up or if we don't really pay attention to politics, everything will be fine. No. We've seen what happens when you don't pay attention. We've seen what happens when you're not involved. We've seen the people who want to take away our fundamental freedoms, our fundamental rights, the people who want to suppress our voices and our votes. And we're not going to let it happen. We don't take that for granted anymore. And that's why we're turning out at historic numbers. That's why we're registering our friends to vote. That's why we're getting involved in activism on the ground, online, any way we can. That's why we're running for office. Because the fight is now. And we can't take it for granted that we've had this democracy. We have to keep winning it back and keeping it and growing it and making it stronger every election. And yeah, that's something that Donald Trump's taken away from us, but it's a fight that we're now going to have even greater passion for. And we also have greater passion for this fight for a reason that Liz Cheney brings up in this next clip. Let's check it out.
What we've done in our politics is create a situation where we're electing idiots. And so I don't look at it through the lens of is this what I should do or what I shouldn't do? I look at it through the lens of how do we elect serious people? And I think electing serious people can't be partisan.
Yeah, we do have to stop electing idiots. The Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Lauren Boeberts, the Anna Paulina Lunas. We have to stop with these people, but we also have to stop electing cowards. The Josh Hawleys, the Ted Cruzes, the Marco Rubios, the people who I believe do know the threat of Donald Trump, do know the danger, but cower away from the truth because they want to preserve their power. Something Liz Cheney had the strength to stand up and say, no, I'll lose my seat, I'll lose my job, I'll lose my position, because democracy is more important. The peaceful transition of power is more important. And like I said, we need more people who aren't cowards, but unfortunately, there's not a lot of those in the Republican Party. And certainly there are not a lot of people with strength and conviction on Donald Trump's shortlist to become his vice president. Now, this is a great clip from Biden-Harris HQ, a compilation of the 3 maybe top choices to be Donald Trump's vice presidential candidate: Doug Burgum, Marco Rubio, and J.D. Vance, all attacking Donald Trump. And of course, they've gone back on those thoughts. Let's check it out.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
I just think that it's important that you're judged by the company you keep, and You
just wouldn't do business with him?
No, I wouldn't.
What we are dealing with here, my friends, is a con artist. He is a con artist. Friends, do not let friends vote for con artists.
Only if these people could keep those convictions, where would we be? We'd be a country without the fear of an authoritarian, a king, trying to kill our democracy. But we're not, because they're too cowardly to say the truth. And so with that, I thank you for standing up to the truth, viewer, standing up for the truth, standing up to Donald Trump, and fighting every day for our democracy. Now, if you stuck around this long in the video, drop a blue heart so I know that you're watching, so I can thank you. Drop those in the comments. Give this video a like. Make sure to subscribe, and I will see you next time.